Hey, welcome to Not Under the Guise of Science. We don't know what this is called yet, but it does involve wrestling. And it is still the same basic premise of I don't know what's necessarily going on, and I'm going to need you to explain it to me.
The only thing I like talking about more than science is professional wrestling. So the fact that you were like, "Hey, let's do this," I'm in. Let's do it.
I went back. I did the Jim Cornette impression in the fucking Anaconda episode, and was like, it felt pretty good. Like I couldn't think of what he sounds like off the top of my head at the time, and I went back and listened to a couple of episodes of his, or not even episodes, just like clips of his drive-through podcast or whatever it is, and just picking stuff that I know about first, because even the stuff I know about, he's so detailed as shit. I don't know what the fuck he's talking about, and I guess what made me think of this is I was watching videos and I was like, fuck, I gotta Google this and I gotta Google this. It was like, I wish I could just ask Shallon what this is. And I can.
So you have access to that. First of all, but I do want to say I don't claim to be on the level of Jim Cornette. Not only was he in the business, but he's also considered a historian. He's one of the, like, he's saved memorabilia, and like if he's forgot more than I know as far as that old cliche.
If I'm understanding correctly, he has like books of just like what his life was at the time, like what are they, like planner books, like keeping track of like what he did on specific dates, and then can go cross-reference that with like actual stuff that happened on that day. It's crazy.
The main reason he kept track of that stuff is because he kept track of what the gate was, as far as how many people came there, how much tickets cost, how much should he be getting, how much should him and his guys be getting. So that's kind of why he kept track of that kind of stuff. It was all about, yeah.
That's,
he didn't want to get
fucking
fucked
brilliant.
Over. Yeah, because especially back then, like the whole carny term, like the wrestling promoters back then were crooks. Like they if they could just make off with the payday and fuck you over and bounce. There were cases of that shit going down in the 70s and 80s.
God. That recent? In the 70s and the 80s?
Yeah.
Jesus Christ.
Yeah, before the internet, basically.
You could just go to a different town, change your name. You have all the money from the last promotion. You have all the capital up front to put down, rip everybody off.
Right. Like the monorail guy in The Simpsons.
Yeah. Lyle Landley. Something like that, right?
I don't remember the name. That's why I just went generic monorail guy. I remember the big one's name is Bitey.
Yeah. I mean, why else would I remember the names of such towns as Ogdenville and West Haverbrook if not for that fucking shit?
Yeah.
Isn't it, like, those could be real town names, but it's like it's right on the line. Like, I don't know. There's too much. It's too much weird going on here. But I'm pretty sure they are real places. I think I
wouldn't doubt it. Yeah.
The most ridiculous places. I think that's when Conan was still writing for the show. So he had that Harvard studying in there. But no, it doesn't mean it doesn't matter what school he went to. He was a fucking
random
maniac. So what we're gonna do here is watch this video, do a little screen share, and I'm gonna ask questions. And this will be news to you as well. I am gonna say, hold on, pause this for a second every now and again.
Okay.
In case it goes too quickly. And this specifically, we strongly encourage you look at the fucking show info so you can watch this video that we're talking about, which is entirely ripped off of our other podcast. or a main, however this works.
Yeah.
Any other things you'd like to discuss before we get into it?
No, I don't. Yeah, I think we're ready to rock.
All right.
Should be fun.
Cool beans.
Back in the day, wrestling was real. The internet, which would open the door like never before, was the equivalent of voodoo, and what happened in that 20 by 20 ring was serious business. At this time, Kayfabe was at the height of its powers, a device put in place to keep everything as legit as
pause
possible.
it a second.
Even away from the crowds, you were expected to keep up appearances, right down to heels being heels in the real world.
So I just want to say, for those who don't know, Kayfabe, it's kind of like Pig Latin. Like fake almost. If you were to take that and flip it around, you get that kayfabe kind of thing. There was yeah. So in wrestling lingo, and believe it or not, that's actually before Snoop was doing his for shizzle. They used to throw that ZZ in the middle of words in Carney speak, they called it. So I mean, kayfabe came out of that. It's one of those words that was only supposed to be understood by the people that are in the wrestling business.
Only the hoodwinkers themselves.
That's right, yeah.
We're supposed to know. All right. Yeah, I was going to ask. I never knew where it was from. It's like, this word sounds like it could be other words.
Right.
Or it sounds like a couple of words bumped into each other in the hallway and fused.
So, yeah, that's it.
All right, there's our
old
boy.
lady asked you for help up the stairs, it was your responsibility to help her down those stairs instead. Actually, that may be too far. While not as strong today, kayfabe is still an important tool when trying to get an audience to...
I do love that idea of it, though. The staying in character all the fucking time. Which, if I'm making this up, correct me, I'm pretty sure that not only was Piper fucking amazing at it, he enjoyed it.
I don't doubt it, yeah. The people that were really good at being bad guys, when they heard boos, it was the same as, the fans telling them, we love you. That means they're doing their job correctly. They're getting the crowd into it. And I mean, back then, the bad guys and the good guys, they didn't even ride the same bus together. They wouldn't be seen at the same restaurant together. They had to stay in it all the time. It's a weird kind of thing where if you're on a TV show and you're an actor and you're playing this character, and then the TV show is over and you go home and then you go shopping, and you still have to be that character when you go shopping. Everyone else is
you go to the fucking supermarket, you just have to be, oh man, that does sound exhausting.
Yeah.
I mean, that would also be them. You just bite beers open.
Just walk through the aisles with doing the hands over the head.
Just crushing beers like that, or just shoving food in their head. Full. And what's even better for them, it's like people look at them and go, oh, those lovable scamps.
Right.
You do what you will, Butch and Luke.
Yeah, just go ahead. Your money's no good here.
Much like most of your front teeth, your money's no good here. Did I get their names right? Butch and Luke?
Butch and Luke, yeah.
Yeah.
We got 33 seconds into this video. Bear with us.
Suspend their disbelief, and we all go nuts when the fourth wall is broken down, even if it's just a bit. I'm Simon from What Culture, and this is 10 infamous moments when wrestlers broke kayfabe. Number 10, The Undertaker sheds a tear. If there's any character more protected in pro wrestling than The Undertaker, I'm not aware of it.
See, I didn't know about
Outside
this
of
one at
WWE
all.
programming, you barely ever see the dead man. Even videos of him
This is
deadlifting
news
that
to me.
creep out from time to time and met with shock and awe.
Well, it
He's
might
not on
be.
social media. He rarely does interviews. He doesn't sit with the rest of the locker room during the Hall of Fame. He has an assistant that buys him groceries.
This whole thing
Maybe,
isn't true anymore.
Probably.
since he retired.
During the night
he's
after
out there.
WrestleMania 24 and Ric Flair's wonderful retirement ceremony, even Taker couldn't hold his emotions in. Coming to show his respect for the Nature Boy after the cameras went off air, the Phenom welled up as the two embraced. Obviously, Flair was crying too. He always cries, because it was yet again the greatest night of his life. Still, though, it's not often you see The Undertaker smile, let alone shed a tear.
All right, so real quick on that. So my first thought when I saw that is, why was that not a... So that was a kayfabe break. Why was that different from when Shawn Michaels mouthed "I love you" right before he gave Ric Flair Sweet Chin Music?
I guess the difference is, in storyline, Shawn Michaels said he always looked up to Ric Flair and he didn't want to have to do this. And it was kind of like, that was the build to it, was that he didn't want to retire Ric Flair, but he was going to have to.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
All right. So then it wasn't breaking kayfabe. It was written into the storyline. Okay.
Yep.
All right.
It was part of it. And
Makes
I
sense.
also like to point out that was Ric Flair. I mean, what year did that happen in? That had to be early 2000s, right?
Which one? The one that we just watched, or the...
Yeah, the one that we just watched there with Undertaker and Ric Flair.
I don't know if it said the year. It's Ric Flair.
Regardless,
Undertaker.
that was probably his 7th retirement, and he had gone on to retire a handful of more times after that. Like, it came to the point where Ric Flair retirements were just like a thing. It wasn't really like, he's not leaving anyway. Most recently he had his quote unquote last match. It was like a tag match with him and not Alberto Del Rio, the other guy. His son-in-law, I forget his name now. He used to be in AEW. Andrade, I'm sorry. But Ric Flair and Andrade was a tag team against whoever. And I mean, Ric Flair's got to be like 80-something now.
Wait a second. Is that Andrade?
Andrade, yeah, there you go. Andrade El Idolo.
I've never heard his name said out loud.
Andre, yeah. Andrade.
Yeah, so he just wrestled Andrade, and
he was on a tag a couple months ago, less than a year ago, I would say.
Really?
Yeah, he's in his 80s, but he was on the team. It was a tag match, so it was him and Andrade against whoever. I forget who they wrestled, but one of those things where you can kind of hide somebody in a tag match and just have them come in and do a couple things and then tag in and out. But,
even an 80-year-old?
Yeah. Even an 80-year-old. You just have, he has to throw his weak fist out there and you sell it like you got shot. Yeah, there's been like 30. I know Ric Flair used to be a big guy. He was a tough guy, but I don't know. I'm going to say 25 years, a lot of the population can beat the shit out of him. It's not it's not tough anymore, my man.
You think he's got one more retirement after this one in him?
Maybe.
He'll certainly try, right?
Yeah. If someone will buy a ticket, he'll do it.
Checks out.
Yeah.
All right. Moving right along. Do you know this one?
I do know this one.
All right.
Yeah.
JBL, was he WWE?
He was WWE. John Bradshaw Layfield. ECW is known for its hardcore style, which usually means weapons and no rules.
What was JBL's deal? Was he was WWE, right? And then so according to what this is during the ECW invasion, and so Blue Meanie was ECW and JBL was WWE. Okay.
Yes.
And he was just like a cowboy. That was JBL's deal.
At this point, yeah. Basically, that was kind of his thing. Except when he was with the Acolytes, and they were kind of like they started out as demonic, and then turned into just like a.
Wait a minute! Fucking Bradshaw is JBL?
Yeah, Justin Bradshaw Layfield.
No No shit.
Yeah.
Yep. I had no idea. I've heard JBL said forever, and I don't think I realized.
Justin Hawk Bradshaw. Now Justin Bradshaw. Yeah. That's him, yeah.
Oh man, so he finally got to do. They're like, "Hey Bradshaw, are you tired of smoking cigars and playing cards with Farouk? Well, we got a cowboy hat for you, fella."
Yeah.
I mean, we always used to joke they had the best job.
Yeah,
like, it was just anytime you cut to them, they were just playing cards, drinking beers, and smoking cigars.
Yeah, and then you'd give them money to beat someone's ass, and then right back to where they were. Bring their little table around from town to town to play cards.
But back to what you were saying, you're right. They started out as demonic.
Yeah, they were Undertaker's acolyte. They were the acolytes.
The acolytes.
Yeah.
And were they both reinvented by that point?
Yeah,
Farouk and Bradshaw, was that their introduction to the new characters that they were, or was there a kind of a gradual change into that, or that?
They kind of came out of nowhere because before that, Farouk was the Nation of Domination guy, and Bradshaw, like I said, he was just a cowboy. He was for a little while. He was one of the Blackhawks. It was Justin Hawk Bradshaw, and him and his whoever his cowboy tag team partner was. But yeah, then they kind of disappeared for a little bit and then came back as Undertaker's lackeys when he was doing his whole Ministry of Darkness thing.
Oh, no shit. Which I loved that whole arc, by the way. That was awesome.
Yeah.
And yeah, I wasn't crazy about the corporate ministry.
Here's a very obscure, funny tidbit. Christian was part of that whole corporate ministry thing. And there was one episode of Raw where Stone Cold Steve Austin got strapped to the Undertaker symbol and like crucified basically and raised up.
Yeah, I remember that.
So there was a game Christian and Stone Cold used to play backstage where one would say, "Don't look at me," and then give a time. So it'd be, "Don't look at me," 20 seconds. And the other one couldn't look at the other person for however long. While Stone Cold is being strapped to the thing, if you go back and look, Christian leans in and whispers, "Don't look at me." And Stone Cold says, "How long?" And Christian says, "Whatever time." And Stone Cold does not look in that direction where Christian's standing on TV. They pulled this shit. I heard that in various podcasts of them. Yeah.
Because it's still just a job at the end of the day.
Yeah, exactly. They're just breaking their balls with their buddy at work.
That's fucking fantastic.
Yeah.
Yeah, so you're right. So now we're a whole minute 58 into this 8-minute 48-second video.
Okay.
But yeah, JBL Blue Meanie.
Number 9, JBL beats up the Blue Meanie. Pro wrestling is all about trust. You'll often hear wrestlers saying they put their bodies in someone else's hands when they enter the ring, and it's true. Anyone can decide to take a cheap shot. There's not much you can do about it. This is exactly what happened at WWE's ECW-inspired One Night Stand pay-per-view in 2005, when JBL thought it'd be a great idea to beat up the Blue Meanie for real. As the two companies squared off in a brawl, Bradshaw laid into the Meanie, leaving his face black and blue. Something that was apparent as soon as the ruckus calmed down.
Yeah.
What's worse, no one actually knows why it happened. The Blue Meanie has said in the past he thought JBL just didn't like him, given he was from ECW and not your typical blue-collar athletic type. That's still no reason to beat the bajingas out of someone.
So you just beat the shit out of him?
Yeah. And I think it was more than... there was some kind of... social media wasn't even a thing then, but... somehow there was some back and forth where JBL was saying that the stuff they do in ECW is garbage, and Blue Meanie kind of stood up for himself. And JBL basically was like, you wouldn't last 5 minutes in the ring with me. And, kind of, I would have to get the specifics, but it was along those lines. And then it was finally like, okay, this is the first time they're in the ring together. If you watch that, JBL, there's 30 people in the ring, however many. JBL makes a beeline to Blue Meanie and just starts punching him in the face. Like there's no holding back, or that's why he looked like he was, punched in the face multiple times by a 6'8" dude, because that's what happened.
So in that type of match, like your Royal Rumble or your Battle Royal format,
yeah,
do they just know the order of who's going out? Like it's not necessarily set in stone who's doing what?
I think they have an idea. And newer wrestlers do it different than old wrestlers. I think a lot of newer guys do like to do more of the memorization and talking about stuff that they're going to do, because some of the things that they do are just, way over the top. They kind of talk through it. I think in the old days, it was more on the fly, and they knew how it was going to end, who was going to win. I don't know if they memorized the order of elimination. Maybe like the refs let them know, but I think there's probably certain dudes that know I'm going in here for a couple seconds and getting knocked out, and some dudes know I'm going to eliminate 10 people, that kind of thing.
Right. All right. Yeah, because that seems like a lot of stuff to plan. They got to allow for some freewheeling in there. There's just too much going on.
And usually the best shit is the freewheeling, where they just kind of come up with stuff on the spot.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. Mean Gene Potty Mouth.
Interesting.
Number 8, Mean G. Mean Gene Okerlund is a hero. Responsible for conducting some of the best interviews in pro wrestling history, he was the consummate professional, unless a sign fell off the wall. Preparing to stick a microphone under the noses of ravishing Rick Rude and Bobby the Brain Heenan at SummerSlam 1989, the pay-per-view logo hanging in the background fell from the wall, causing Okerlund to just exclaim, it. His tirade carried on too, as he insulted whoever put the sign up in the first place. This wasn't even the real problem, though, given it was never meant to air. The interview had been filmed earlier in the day, and someone in the production truck rolled the wrong footage. Whoops.
It's fantastic.
That is
find
excellent.
That video.
Yeah. I've never seen that.
And quick aside on this specific thing, I was watching. Again, I said I've been down the rabbit hole, but I went down a Bobby the Brain rabbit hole because I forgot. I only know what I remember of him when I was a kid, and it's like now what I know now as an adult. Like this guy was probably fucking amazing, and I had no idea how well I could appreciate what he was doing at the time. But
the best,
yeah. Yeah, like, and I looked at the roster of the Heenan family. Like, holy shit, he had fucking, I can't remember any of their names at the moment, but like he had such a good stable of guys.
Everybody was in there at some, well, not everybody, but like all the big bad guys were in there at some point. They made their way in, made their way out.
I remembered that, I remembered Ultimate Warrior saying he was going to stuff him in a weasel suit. I remember that. And then I went and looked that up because I didn't remember if it happened or not. And then, yes, it did. They even made an action figure of him in a weasel suit, I believe, which solid marketing. And then I was like, well, what? I can't remember what the Ultimate Warrior's closer is, or his finisher, excuse me. And it was just the gorilla press.
It was the gorilla press was really the setup, and then he would hit the ropes and do the splash.
That's right. Yeah.
The guy laying down, that he would do the big splash on him. That was
That back when your finisher was no. I'm not just coming off the ropes. I'm gonna do something to you first. Right? Because Hogan's was the fucking. The big
he would do the big boot
to take you
and
down.
Then he would hit the ropes,
yeah,
and then hit the leg drop. Yep. I mean, you could win a match with a leg drop too. I mean, now the Canadian Destroyer doesn't end matches. That's insane to me. It's a front flip pile driver that the other guy clearly has to flip over with you to do, but like. That's hospitalization. How are people just like hit me again?
I remember.
Like,
oh, go ahead. Yeah.
No, say it's Zangief from Street Fighter. It's doing that shit, and people just getting up.
Yeah. Fucking Zangief. That's
Yeah.
right. I remember watching. I think it was SummerSlam in like 18 or 19. Like hadn't watched a pay-per-view in forever. And there's just dudes just doing flips in the middle, like just running up to the guy, no ropes involved, just run up and just do a front flip into a splash like real quick. Like just sneak that in there. And it's like people just going upside down for fun right now.
Right.
Like I remember I used to like counting how many times RVD would be upside down in a match. Because nobody would get even close to that. And now it's not uncommon.
Yeah, exactly. It's commonplace.
Just doing 5 flips over the course of a match.
And then go back to Hogan and Warrior doing the fucking Let's Play Mercy for 5 minutes, where they put their the knuckles up and just kind of see who can push back and who's stronger. And
yeah. It's hysterical.
Yeah. It's definitely evolved. I mean, there's pluses and minuses, but we don't have to get into that on this particular podcast. We could save that for a future episode. My opinions on the state of wrestling today, but it's one of those things where I love what it is, but also miss what it used to be. Like it's a little bit of both. You know, I'm not one of those. This isn't wrestling. Like okay, no, this is different, but. I'll put it, this sums it up. I would rather the crowd chant boo and yay than this is awesome. You know, because boo and yay means I give a fuck. I'm into this. I want this guy to win. This is awesome means I'm watching a show and this is a spectacular stunt performance. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's a little bit emotionally detached.
Yeah. Boo and yay are guttural, instinctual responses.
Yeah. Boo and yay mean I forgot this is fake.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, boo and yay are just, like that's
right.
There's
this
no words.
Also means I appreciate the athleticism. These dudes are fucking phenomenal. I could never do this. I love watching it, but it's a notch below, slightly below for me. For me personally, I know a lot of wrestling nerds are going to get upset if I'm not all on board with that shit. But I was born in 1980. It is what it is.
Who throws a battery?
Number 7, the Heart Battery Kid. Don't throw batteries at people.
Don't spit on me.
I shouldn't need to tell you that. But just in
the
case you were
game.
dragged up or no one has actually sat you down, looked you right in the eye and explained what a battery is for, they are not for hurling at people's faces. So, it's no surprise that Shawn Michaels had something of a hissy fit when some moron did decide to throw a battery at him at an event before WrestleMania 14, smacking him straight in the head.
Wasn't even at a regular.
Was so outraged, he cut his promo short, jumped out the ring and walked backstage, where he then got into an argument with Vince McMahon. Vince would later claim Shawn wasn't in a good place at the time, but regardless where you are, you're going to be pretty mad if a device intended for powering things whacks you between the eyes.
All right.
Wow.
Yeah, throwing batteries. I mean, that's just standard Philly behavior.
Makes sense.
Like, I hear that if you're late for class in Philly, that they just throw batteries at you. Like, the teacher gives batteries out if someone's not in yet. And then when they walk in, they just fucking...
You know what to do.
Yeah. Go ahead. Show them why the rest of you know why you're not late.
I mean, that's fucking Shawn Michaels. Like, what? He's got to be one of the top 5 ever.
So, Michael, let's see, that was WrestleMania 14, they just said?
Yeah.
So, WrestleMania 14 was...
late 90s. I don't know exactly, but it's around there.
Yeah, 98.
Okay.
98. And that was the... was that the Shawn Michaels Undertaker WrestleMania?
14, I think, was Michaels Austin.
Oh, okay.
if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, he beat him for the belt. I was never a fan of Shawn Michaels. Even
No.
It softened a little bit once he got into once DX was like in their heyday. But
okay.
Yeah, so this will prove how how little my wrestling knowledge was and exactly kind of where I fell off. When he double-crossed Marty Jannetty to break the Rockers up, that's when I was like, I'm done with you, Shawn Michaels. I'm a fucking Marty Jannetty guy all the fucking way. I was heartbroken.
Yeah. Okay. That means he did his job, though. That was the point.
Right. Exactly. Yeah. It's like I hated Joaquin Phoenix like initially at a different time. I'm back and forth with Joaquin Phoenix his whole career, but I hated him for a stretch of years around when Gladiator came out, and then I was like, "This because he did it right." He was the
asshole.
worst fucking person in that movie.
Yeah.
He's an awful fucking person. I was like, all right, cool, back on board. And then he got fucking weird and was like, I don't know with this fucking guy again. And then he was really good in fucking Joker, or at least I would say.
Okay. I still did not see that, but
I highly recommend it. I liked it. But yeah. So I clearly backed the wrong horse in the Rockers. In the Rockers split.
Oh, like if you were to text Marty or like figure out a way to contact Marty Jannetty and tell him you had $75 if he could find his way to you to hang out and you'd give it to him and also get him drunk, you definitely have more of a chance of Marty Jannetty showing up for that than Shawn Michaels.
Fair enough.
Yeah.
You can't even get Shawn Michaels on Cameo. You can get Marty Jannetty to come to your house.
Right. Yeah, no, Shawn Michaels is at the point where he's like, no, I'm done with crack. Marty Jannetty's like, who said crack?
Yeah. Who didn't say crack? So I know who to not talk to.
Right.
All right.
There's an amazing. Sorry,
go ahead.
We're gonna get derailed talking wrestling, but there's Joey Janela told a story. He's a more modern wrestler, but he told the story about he was hanging out with Marty Jannetty, and Marty Jannetty was trashed. So Joey Janela offered to give him a ride home, and they left the bar, got in the car, and drove around for God knows how long before they got back to the bar. And Marty Jannetty was staying across the street from the bar.
What is that conversation like in the car?
Yeah, like, is it up this way, or like trying to get directions? The dude's just talking about, I know where some hookers are, and it's like, I'm just trying to get you home safely.
That's the movie. Even though you're staying across the street, you fucking you get him driving you around, so you can hornswoggle him into some tomfoolery.
Yeah. Right? Yeah. Take me to this location where whatever. Yeah.
This isn't where I live, but if you like, we could totally go.
Just park. It's not where I live. I'll be back in 15 minutes. Just stay parked here.
Yeah.
And do you have any money?
Also, I need $75. I will settle for $75. All right, this next one, I know this one.
Before we go, this has to be Harlem Heat, right?
Yes, this is absolutely Harlem Heat. This is one of the hardest wrestling's ever made me laugh in my life.
I like that they put "We coming for you!" exclamation point and
Right.
not "We coming for you!" ...
Yeah, we coming for you, comma ...
Right.
Number 6, Booker T is coming for Hulk Hogan. Booker T once called Hulk
Yeah.
Hogan the N-word during an interview before a match. What's more, Booker T realized what he had done instantly, holding his face in his hands with utter regret. It's now a wrestling legend, and we strongly suggest you go find it on YouTube.
I fucking love
Props to Mean Gene for not missing a fucking beat. He was just like, all right, Stevie Ray, and turned to it like, and Booker T went head and hands and everything, and Mean Gene did not even, like, he just steamrolled right through it, pretended it didn't happen.
Like, Booker T recognized it initially, and from what I hear, Mean Gene has still not acknowledged that it happened.
Oh, wow.
That's how good he is.
Yeah. I think he probably took it to his grave then.
Yep.
I think he passed away.
He took the thing that he saw, that everybody saw on national television, to his grave. Never happened in his eyes.
Fucking professional.
Right?
Yeah.
Oof, man. Took my glasses off. Number 5. I bet this is about Robert.
If you've just had neck surgery, you probably don't want a bunch of muscular dudes using you as a human shield. Unless you're just weird or a sucker for punishment. I'm pretty sure it's just a big fat no for all of us, however. Given that Bobby the Brain Heenan just had said operation, he was understandably a little nervous, even if he was just sat at ringside. This escalated to almost comical levels during a match between Brian Pillman and Eddie Guerrero. With Pillman knocked to the floor, he decided to use Heenan as a shield to protect himself from Guerrero's incoming attack. This sent the Brain into straight-up panic mode as he yelled, "What the f*** are you doing?" in Pillman's direction that was audibly caught on camera. After composing himself, Bobby did eventually rejoin the commentary team and also apologized to all involved backstage.
All right. Hang on a sec there. So that one with I remember Bobby the Brain being in a neck brace. I don't remember Brian Pillman. I only know the name because of Brian Pillman Jr.
Okay.
But yeah, I don't remember Brian Pillman wrestling at all.
He was the loose cannon Brian Pillman, and the name definitely fit. He was a loose cannon for sure. He was one of those guys. He blurred the lines between kayfabe and reality. He was him and Hogan were him and Austin were a tag team. They were the Hollywood Blondes. But his real claim to fame is he worked for WCW and he didn't want to work there anymore. But he came up with an angle where he would be like an outsider and kind of harass WCW from the outside. And he convinced Eric Bischoff to release him from his contract for real, because he said this will add into people will know that I'm still under contract, so you can't say that I'm fired and then have me come in through the crowd, blah, blah, blah. So he convinced Eric Bischoff that the best thing to do would be to release him for real. He got out of his contract, and then instead of doing the angle, he went to work for ECW. And then from ECW, he came to WWF. So he pitched the story to get out of his contract and did it for real and moved on.
I was gonna say, if it actually played out the way he was planning, I was like, this motherfucker pulled The Departed with his wrestling career. Like, holy shit!
To an extent, yeah.
Even still, that's pretty fucking awesome. Like,
yeah, it was brilliant.
No, watch. You let me go, and it's gonna be awesome.
Yeah,
it's
it was like people are gonna know. People are gonna. If you say you let me go, but don't really let me go, people will see right through it. So the only way to do this for real is you got to do it for real. And he was, peace.
That's fucking.
Yeah.
Well done. Good job there, BP. He's dead, right?
He is dead. He died in the prime of his career. It was like an OD or something in his locker room before. Yeah. Tragically.
Dag nabbit. Well, that's always fun.
Yeah. No, wrestlers are they're better now. But back in the day, it was like you're on the road 5-6 days a week. They would take something to wake up, take something to go to bed, take something for the pain, to drink to hang out. Like, it was just
fucking
it was bad.
Take a needle to get larger.
Yeah, all that shit.
Yeah. Vince is painted into a corner. What do you know what this one is off the top of your head? Based off the title and
just seeing him with Hornswoggle. I thought it was going to be him pulling his quads, but it doesn't look like
Hornswoggle. Oh, that's right. That was the leprechaun's name, right?
Number 4,
guy, yep.
McMahon forced into a corner. Given that Vince McMahon loves the entertainment side of pro wrestling, it's amazing he's only killed himself off once on TV. In true soap opera style, it would come as no surprise if the chairman of the board was blown to smithereens constantly, only to appear back on Monday Night Raw with some fangled explanation of how he managed to survive. Probably something to do with his grapefruits. In 2007, however, the boss decided to go all the way and ended Vince McMahon Appreciation Night with his limo exploding and seemingly leaving him deader than Fandango's hopes to have a meaningful role in the company. While WWE began to run storylines of a federal investigation taking place to further the angle and attempt to make it seem real, a true tragedy took place at the same time when one of their employees was involved in a very real double murder-suicide. McMahon had no choice but to pull back the curtain as the Benoit investigation took place.
Vince, like, I'm gonna fake my death.
Benoit was like, hold my beer.
I'm gonna reel mine and several family members.
I mean, Benoit, I'm not sure that he knew wrestling was fake. He was like the one guy out there that nobody ever told, like, what do you're not supposed to really punch me, and you're not supposed to, so I don't know. He took things that far. I'm trying to make a joke in this awful tragedy, but it's not really coming out the way I planned.
Like, that is the craziest thing ever.
Oh yeah, no, that is easily, in my lifetime, the worst wrestling thing that I can think of. I mean, the whole Jimmy Snuka thing was before I knew about wrestling, but that one's up there as well. But
yeah, like that's. Yeah, it's tough to try to rank horrible things, but Owen Hart dying by an accident from falling from the rafters, or this guy murdering his fucking wife and children and then himself. Fuck.
Yeah, no. I mean, the accident is tragic, but no, because it just and I have trouble separating the, like, how many Chris Benoit matches have I watched and like, holy shit, this is the best fucking thing ever, and then this happens. It's like, I don't even want to watch the guy anymore, despite his amazing body of work. But
yeah,
it's always
that's a crazy thing, because I guarantee you, it's not a terribly common in the topic of wrestling, the separating the artist from the art type of thing.
And they don't want that. I mean, right. At least they didn't.
Yeah. But yeah, it's not being nearly as fun as we thought. Surprise, surprise.
Yeah.
Crippler Crossface, that was him?
Yes.
There we go. All right, I saved it.
And the reason they called him the Crippler was based on an accident in ECW where I think it was Sabu, where he went to flip Sabu up in the air, and it was kind of halfway between Sabu flipping all the way and going on his back, or just landing on his stomach, and he only went halfway, he didn't commit enough, and landed right on the top of his head and broke his neck. So they were like, well, we can go one of two ways with this. We can either apologize to everyone or say you did it on purpose and you're the Crippler. So Which one will sell more tickets?
You know the thing you're probably going to feel guilty about regardless? Let's let other people in on it.
Yeah, we're gonna tattoo that on your shoulder.
In fact, some could say we might drive you to murder your family at some point down the line.
Who knows?
Yeah, that was the one terrible thing.
On your head. Yeah.
Sabu broke his neck a bunch of times, right?
A couple. I'm not sure. I mean, he's a list of injuries, just the amount of shit that he's been through. I remember he was in a match where they replaced the ropes with barbed wire, and his bicep got slashed and was profusely bleeding. And what he did, because wrestlers don't, and this is why when people say wrestling's fake and how can you watch that, I get fucking insulted, because if that shit happened in any other sport, they stop the game and get that guy out of there and they put in a replacement. In the case of Sabu, the show must go on. So he took some of the tape off of his wrist and self-taped this fucking gash in his bicep to try to stop the bleeding so that he could wrestle another 10 minutes or whatever it was and finish it.
To a fucking makeshift tourniquet.
Yeah.
With tape that is definitely no longer sticky.
Right. And it's in front of 450 people. It's not even like this isn't the Pontiac Silverdome or anything like that. Like
yeah. It's a building full of people who drove there in Pontiacs.
Yeah, right. That's the only connection. Yeah.
Fucking Christ.
Yeah.
Well, he'll get his own whole section because he's a fucking maniac.
Yeah.
Or how not to do business. I don't know what this one is. You? Any thoughts? Any ideas?
I don't. Not based on just the title now.
Alrighty.
Number 3, Bash at the Beach 2000. Don't be a jabroni mark and work yourself into a shoot, even when a shoot is a work, or a work is a shoot. What is even going on?
I should have led with Bash at the Beach nonsense? 2000.
This is how most pro wrestling fans felt when WCW decided to come up with an angle so stupid and bizarre, you would have thought they were actively trying to get people to turn off their television sets.
I like Simon
Jeff
Miller.
Jarrett about to square off against Hulk Hogan for the World Championship at Bash at the Beach 2000. Jarrett threw himself to the floor and told the Hulkster to pin him. Confused, Hogan did just that with his foot, getting the 1-2-3 and winning the match. Just to drive that nail right into the coffin, Hulk then grabbed a mic to proclaim, "That's why this company is in the damn shape it's in. Because of bullshit like this." To confuse the situation even more, this was followed by head writer Vince Russo coming out, declaring what we had just seen void, and setting up a match between Jarrett and Booker T. Forget how dumb all that sounds, because the real nonsense comes when you learn that to this day, Hogan and Russo have very different opinions of what occurred that night. One says it was all planned, the other says it was a double cross. What we know for sure is that it's all stupid.
Yeah.
Man, the first time I remember retaining who Vince Russo is was watching, I think, WCW with you, obviously, because you're in the story, and at somebody's house, and that's all I got. But he was coming down to the ring, and I was like, who the fuck is Vince Russo? You're like, he used to write for fucking WWE. And I was like, he never did that in WWE. And now, like, the more stories I hear about him, specifically the Cornette side, which is the opposite side of Vince Russo you could be. But yeah, it makes sense that it was just like, yeah, fine, I'll just write myself into this now. Because Vince would never let me do this, but you're just going to let me do whatever I want.
The best way to put Vince Russo is he threw so much shit against the wall, and Vince McMahon told him what stuck. And that's why it was successful, because he had all these crazy ideas, and Vince would go, all right, those 10 are no good, but that one, I see something in that, and, would be able to spin that up into something else. Everything he's done, and it's a track record. It has nothing to do with anybody else's opinion on it. Everything else he's done, WCW, the former TNA, which has now been renamed Impact because it's been sold and bought and stuff like that. House of Glory, I think, was the other thing he did. Everything he's done has just hemorrhaged money because he's awful. Yeah.
So I guess
no other way to put it.
I guess what we need, what the podcast brings us is I'm just gonna throw as much shit against the wall as I can, and then you be the Vince to my Vince Russo. Like, all right, that's good.
Tell you what sticks. Yeah.
That one thing out of these 700 things you just suggested.
I hope so, because Vince knew how to make money. If I have that talent, it would be cool. But so far, it has not manifested itself.
Not yet. It's a slow burn. It's the long con, as they say.
Yeah.
Can you don't have to get into specifics of it. Can you name, at least in your opinion, 3 Vince Russo's 3 best things that he contributed to WWE?
Okay, best things that he contributed to WWE. I mean, he came up with various like the corporate Rock thing. I think he was involved with that with when the Rock turned from the Nation of Domination and joined the corporation.
Right.
Naked Midian, I think that was his idea.
Naked Midian.
To have Midian run around naked. And maybe Katie Vick. I'm not sure I think he was still there for that. Katie Vick was when the story was that Kane had an ex-girlfriend named Katie Vick who passed away, and Triple H put on a Kane mask and pretended to make fun of Kane by getting in a coffin and dry humping. Yeah, there was an angle. I mean, Vince Russo, I mean, he's probably responsible for Mae Young giving birth to the Hand. Like for every good idea that we have that he came up with, there's a lot of bad ideas, and especially because Vince really cared about the top of the card. The rest of the other shit, whatever happened.
Yeah.
So yeah,
the fact that all that shit made it through.
Yeah.
And now that I understand what got through, I definitely get why Cornette's upset.
Yeah, like they expected us, like this is supposed to be a show about a fight. I get that it gets more fantastical than that, and people have a disagreement that ends with trying to, cut each other's throat or hit each other with a chair or whatever. So it's embellished. But you want us to believe that an 80-year-old woman had sex with an African-American man and gave birth to just a white hand? Just
it was with Mark Henry, right?
Yeah, it was sexual chocolate himself.
Podcast regular Mark Henry.
Right, yeah, friend of the show.
How big was the hand that she gave birth to?
It was adult male sized.
So still like way less than an actual baby.
It doesn't matter how big the hand was. That's not how sperm and egg work.
You're right. This is still a science-based podcast.
Right. It doesn't glitch out and spit out various body parts. It's all or nothing.
It's not here's the best I got hand.
Right.
Oh, shit.
Yeah, so someone wrote that and someone was like, yeah, that's great. That's what we're gonna put on television. That's the main problem with Raw going from 2 hours to 3 hours is they get more money for sponsorship, but now you got another hour a week to fill with bullshit. So there you go.
And what happened first? Raw going for 2 to 3 hours, or SmackDown being a new show?
I think SmackDown first. Nitro was 3 hours, I remember, because it was always, and then Raw came in after an hour of Nitro. And Nitro was bigger. It wasn't until Raw got bigger that eventually they got that second show, and then SmackDown came in. And then Raw went, I think from there, Raw went 3 hours, because it hopped networks and stuff like that too. But that's, someone can correct me or look that up, but that's what my memory is telling me.
All right. That hug. I don't remember what this is. Do you remember what this is? No?
Not by that name.
All right.
Number 2. The curtain call. The curtain call is one of the most infamous moments of kayfabe breaking in history. Going down when such things were still quite sensitive.
This may take a sec.
Probably caused
an actual sec.
to collapse as the idea of protecting the business was set on fire, thrown out the window, then retrieved before being hurled outside again, sparking intense debate behind the scenes. It all started when Kevin Nash and Scott Hall accepted big money deals to leave the then WWF and join WCW. Aside from being a loss to the company, it was also the final days of the Clique, a backstage group that also contained Triple H and Shawn Michaels. So, given that they were all about to go their separate ways, Triple H and Hall decided to join HBK and Nash in the ring after their match to share one big hug, despite the fact that they weren't meant to be friends and were feuding with each other and were in Madison Square Garden. It's said that Vince McMahon had agreed to some moment of respect, but what went down was far more than he anticipated. With Michaels being the champ and Hall and Nash on their way out, the entire fallout hit Triple H like a ton of bricks.
All right, we'll get to that one in a minute, but so how did...
Curtain call is what they call that.
Yeah.
I never knew it as that hug,
How did Triple H end up with the brunt of it? Or actually, before we got to that, so the match was Nash and HBK. HBK beat Nash, and that was going to be Nash getting out, dropping the title before...
so it wasn't a title dropping, and it wasn't a televised show. It was like a house show that they had at Madison Square Garden. I don't remember who the match was. It may have been a tag match. It might have been Nash and HBK versus Triple H and Razor at the time. I might have the pairing wrong. Regardless, they were supposed to be enemies. They were against each other. We're still at a time where good guys and bad guys are supposed to be believed or kept secret, even though we're after, I think this is after the steroid trial where Vince McMahon and Hulk Hogan admitted that this was all a show and stuff like that on the stand, which was really the thing that started, wrestling, having to admit that it wasn't real. But so it was still on the fence. So 2 of the guys are leaving. One of the guys is the world champion. Because of this hug, you can't punish the 2 guys that are leaving because they're gone, and the other guy is your world champion. He's your breadwinner, especially in a time where they weren't doing as well. There wasn't 10 million viewers. This was before all that stuff happened. So the only guy that really could get punished was Triple H.
Wow.
And his punishment was he was supposed to win King of the Ring that year. So they scrapped him, and they gave it to another guy by the name of Steve Austin.
Oh.
Yep. And Steve Austin went on to beat Jake the Snake that night. And then Steve Austin went to say, you talk about your Psalms and your John 3:16. Well, Austin 3:16 says, I just whooped your ass. And the WWE went on to print money for the remainder of the 90s.
Oh, man.
So if it wasn't for that hug... causing Triple H to get penalized, that shit wouldn't went down the way it did.
God damn it. See, it's even in wrestling, the random chaos, just like without that, we couldn't have got to here.
Yeah.
Holy shit. I didn't know that part of it.
Very, very interesting. Yeah.
Yeah, fucking. Well, Triple H is fine.
Yeah. It worked out for him. He did all right.
Yeah, he recovered quite well.
Yeah. He didn't go say the Marty Jannetty route.
It's going to be at least $125 to get Triple H to come smoke crack with me. So this, the last one. The
last one is the one, right?
That's the one. And I am currently in the middle of it's 3 or 4 different things chopped together, but it's over 3 hours of Jim Cornette talking about the Montreal Screwjob.
Okay.
And it's still so
the best
much
thing about that.
But yeah, go ahead.
He was like, Jim Cornette was like, well, if you're going to do that, just screw him over. Like, he was saying it like, you fucking asshole. And they went, oh. And that's what they did.
Yeah. It's fucking crazy too. And the thing that I loved him talking about it, after knowing the guy who hates kayfabe being broken more than anything in the world, he feels responsible now. He feels guilty for kayfabe being broken on like the biggest break of kayfabe. Because
of this?
Yeah, because Bret Hart went on, like, talked to newspapers and shit. And
that's true.
Talked to, like, so this thing that he threw out from being frustrated with being in the same room as Vince Russo day in and day out.
It changed the fucking course of wrestling. So for those who don't know, the Montreal Screwjob, there was a point in time where Bret Hart was the champion and he was leaving and going to WCW, but he was still the champion. So Shawn Michaels was the person that was going to beat him for said championship. Shawn Michaels and Bret Hart hated each other in real life. This was not that they were able to work with each other, but they fucking hated each other, could not stand to be in the same room. So Bret Hart did not want to get beat in front of his home crowd by Shawn Michaels. He said, let's end it in some kind of draw, or let me win and then I'll go on Raw and either lose it there or give it up, or that was his plan. He didn't want to lose in Montreal. A couple weeks before this, maybe even months before this, Medusa, or Alundra Blaze, who is the women's champion of the WWE at the time, while champion, left to go to WCW television. This was all this NWO stuff. Everybody was jumping ship. And on TV, held up the WWE women's title and dropped it in a trash can. So you can see where Vince's paranoia was coming in with, this already happened.
I didn't know this part happened.
My world. Yeah. So all that is the setup to Vince being like, this is bad. If my world champion goes over there and does that, I'm sunk. So I got to figure something out. So that's why his back was against the wall. And he, I guess, was not confident that Bret Hart was going to do what he said he was going to do. So all of this stuff got baked in. And again, for those who don't know, what happened was during the match, Shawn Michaels put Bret Hart in a move, the sharpshooter, which is actually Bret Hart's finisher. Vince McMahon ran down, told the ring announcer told the timekeeper rather to ring the bell, told the ring announcer it's over, and basically called the match and gave the belt to Shawn Michaels and screwed Bret Hart over, and he didn't know this was going to happen. So that's the Montreal Screwjob, which has gone on to live. And again, we talk about the dominoes that stacked up. The one before this set up Stone Cold Steve Austin as the big good guy. This is the thing that created evil Mr. McMahon. If it wasn't for this, that whole evil Mr. McMahon character wouldn't happen. And the Austin McMahon feud, which was the biggest draw in wrestling ever, or that I know of, wouldn't have happened without these past two things that were fuck ups.
So both of those characters, as we knew in their prime, both came out of not necessarily mistakes, but just like
real life bleeding over and happenstance in a way. Yeah.
That's wild.
Yeah.
And it's I remember. So I was not watching wrestling yet. I was pretty close to watching wrestling, but I hadn't started watching wrestling yet. Getting back into it. And so all the evil Mr. McMahon just coming out just like mid-match, just saying, "Oh yeah, well now I'm gonna do this instead," or something like that.
Go to hell.
Yeah. Well, now I brought out 5 more wrestlers for you to fight. And it would just be that, because the whole time it was like, "Oh fuck, he can't do this," which is what everyone's reaction was going. So Cornette talks about, and I get from Cornette's standpoint of keeping the kayfabe, but from Vince's standpoint, him creating the character of, I run this, I can do whatever I want.
Yeah.
And just somebody's clearly going to win a match. That's always been a thing in wrestling. It's when the ref has his back talking to the one tag team partner, the other tag team competitor guy sneaks out, and the whole crowd is furious because you can't do that. You're breaking the rules. And now the guy running the company is doing that. It's like, you can't do this.
And he was the announcer, and Jack Tunney was the president a couple of weeks before. Vincent K. McMahon was just a play-by-play guy at the desk. And then all of a sudden, why is he running out there telling the ref to ring the bell? And then that's exposed that, okay, he's really the boss. Well, I guess the trial did too, but it just kind of, it changed things to he's the piece of shit. And then it turned into he's an abusive boss and I am a beer drinking, blue collar kind of guy. And hit him with another stunner.
God damn it. Yeah, I think Stone Cold and The Rock is definitely what got me back into wrestling.
That's what got everybody into wrestling. Everybody back in,
Yeah.
They were beating Monday Night Football. They were doing 10 million viewers between the two shows. When I say they, wrestling, WCW and WWE or WWF, it was at the time.
Right.
Between the two shows, there were over 10 million people watching professional wrestling on Monday nights.
Instead of football. That's wild, dude.
Yeah. I mean, football still did their numbers, but I think it was less than 10 million at the time.
It was still, I mean, if you get,
they did all right. Football was fine. Football did fine.
If you're going to go back to Sliffs, we should end this soon. If you're going back to Slick's laws of wrestling dynamics, I mean, rule number 3, which is rule number 1.
Right. Start with 3.
2 men beat 1 man every time.
Yeah.
And so 2 wrestling shows were beating 1 football show. So it was still outnumbered, but still, abides by the laws of nature.
Yeah. Oh boy. This is supposed to be 15, 20 minutes. Yeah, nice.
I don't know why the recording stopped. Maybe my Wi-Fi signal dropped. So it's a song with the dead aircraft, or else it'll sound like shit.
Yeah, so let's watch the rest of this video. Like I said.
Okay.
Oh, what's great is we get to play the fucking song again. Yeah. Nice.
And hopefully this will be a different audience.
Number 1, the Montreal Screwjob. Is there a more talked about situation in all of pro wrestling than what happened at the Survivor Series 1997? Still debated and touched on today, it will live in infamy forever. Hell, if aliens ever land on this planet, I would bet someone eventually musters up the courage to ask, so, Who do you think was to blame for the Montreal screwjob? Kicking into gear when Bret Hart opted to join WCW, the question remained as to how the Hitman would drop his WWF title. Being that the Survivor Series was taking place on his home turf of Canada, coupled with his personal animosities towards that evening's opponent Shawn Michaels, Bret allegedly struck a deal with McMahon to drop the championship on Raw the next night instead. But what if Hart went against his word? And what if he showed up on the rival program with the title like Ric Flair had done with the WCW belt during his WWF tenure? What if? What if? What if? One would assume all this was too much for Vince to gamble on, ordering Earl Hebner to stop the match when HBK applied the sharpshooter to Bret, even though that wasn't the finish of the match. Shawn was the champ. Hebner got out of Dodge in a pre-prepared car, and Vince got punched in the face by Hart for screwing him over. Despite knowing nearly every move that happens behind the scenes, pro wrestling can still surprise us with the odd moment of reality in front of the cameras. Let us know of any more in the comments below, and don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. You can even get me on Twitter at SimonMiller316. I'm Simon from What Culture.
Yeah.
I'll chat to you again.
We'll give him a plug.
Yeah, I love Simon Miller.
Yeah, we're using his video. The least we can do is get 7 more people to know who he is.
Yeah. I've been watching Ups and Downs for years, Simon. So do me a solid and don't sue me.
Right in the beginning of that, I didn't know Ric Flair brought WCW's belt onto WWF.
Yeah, that was the big gold belt. There's a whole. That's what. Remember, he was coming in like the early '90s as the real world's champion. He was calling himself.
Mm-hmm.
There was a split between the NWA and WCW or Jim Crockett Promotions or that whole thing. It was like it was all intertwined. Mm-hmm. And then the NWA was like, we don't want Ric Flair to be our champion anymore, or WCW didn't want Ric Flair. Whichever it was, there was a division between the two of them where WCW then went on to crown their own new champion, and Ric Flair left as the NWA champion and came to WWE or WWF with that belt. And he was calling himself the real world's champion and all that good stuff.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah, there was like a whole political behind the scenes stuff.
It's not quite the same as what the chick who took the
no, not exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I think back
then that was probably a more egregious offense out of the two, right?
Yes, absolutely. Yeah. Yeah, because Ric Flair still represented himself as he was coming in saying, this is the title that matters, your title is garbage, versus coming in and saying, this title that I have is garbage from that other place.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. That's a little nuance there.
A lot of nuance in this wrestling, huh?
Yeah. I mean, and that's the best. This behind the scenes shit is like, it adds so much to what's going on screen. I don't know. It's kind of
like that's what in the last 5-6 years, that's what's got me like looking more shit up again. And then it's like, all right, cool. I remember this thing happening. No, what was really happening?
Right. Yeah.
Like that was always my complete subject jump. This is a vernacular joke. I remember people like 15, 20 years ago asking like, yo, what's really good? And the qualification of really was always like, in my head, it was like someone saying, yo, what's good? Nothing. Yo, what's really good? It's like, we're going out later. Yeah, like I wouldn't know what to do with it when I heard it.
Yeah, when I hear what's really good, my first thought is corn pops. Something like that. Like
yeah. Oh, I haven't had those in forever. Those are good as shit.
Yeah, they're really good. Saying.
Oh shit. Well, I think that's as good a place to pull out as ever.
Yeah, I'm ready for bed.
Yeah. Under the guise of science at all that stuff.
Yeah. Yep.
You wouldn't be here without that, right?
I mean,
we think.
Yeah. If depends on our hashtags, I guess, but yeah, there's a good chance that you already know us.
You know what? Let's be professionals. I'm Charles.
I'm Chris.
And Under the Guise of Science, Guise spelled Guise at gmail.com on Facebook and Instagram. Where else we got?
We are also on the YouTube. We're also on TikTok, both at Under the Guise of Science. On Twitter, we are at Science Guys. Again, always GUISE.
Which that Twitter account is apparently a good follow. I've just been told this evening.
It's me being an asshole. Enjoy.
Enjoy this new content.
Yeah.
Baked potato, baked potato, baked potato, baked potato.